On the following episode of the DCC Insider Podcast, Angelo, Adam, and David have a conversation with our first alumni guest, 2009 graduate, Mr. Chris Nemes, founding partner of Nemes Rush Wealth Management Group. For our YouTube listeners, feel free to navigate down to the description to see some specific timestamps detailing the topics we've covered today. We hope you enjoy.
Yeah. So, Motor Enclave, right? Is that what it's called? Or
it was Autobahn Country Club.
Autobahn Country Club.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So, in Illinois, right?
In Illinois.
Awesome.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
So, you were down there for driving experience?
Yeah, it was just a driving experience. We had, donated some money to a cause out in Kalamazoo, and so we got invited to go do some driving of vehicles with a NASCAR driver at Autobahn's Country Club in Illinois. So, very cool experience and something I cherish very much.
Can you tell us some of the cars you drove?
It was actually, they had the souped up Mazda Miata.
The cop car,
right?
yeah.
And then they had these mini, I forget the name of the car, but it's effectively like a mini F1 vehicle. So you get in it and you fly around the track. So I didn't do any driving, but drove with Chase, who was a NASCAR driver. So it was fun.
Yeah, that's
nice.
really cool.
Yeah.
Through ECC, one of the businesses that my friends and I operate, we work with some clients, and one of them has a facility at M1, which is kind of along the same lines a little bit, but not as nice of a track as down in Illinois. Up here it's a little bit of a shorter track, but no, it's still a great experience. So
Do you follow like F1 motorsports, like NASCAR?
I don't follow any racing, but I do follow golf. That's the main sport, and some football as well. So I was glad to see that
Those
U of M won.
Lions.
That was also very nice, and go Lions for this weekend. See if we can get another win.
I'm a diehard Niners fan, so.
Oh, are you?
Yeah, go Niners.
That's too bad.
I really feel bad, honestly, because you're gonna be crying this weekend.
No, I'll be just fine, man.
Yeah. By the time this comes out, we'll know who won. So hopefully we're proving you wrong, but.
Hopefully not.
So let's jump in and talk about your career post CC, a little bit maybe about your college experience, and kind of start from there. So where did you attend university?
So I went to the University of Detroit Mercy.
Okay.
I graduated from Catholic Central in 2009. So I was looking at a few different schools. I chose U of D because I was getting an academic and an athletic scholarship to go play lacrosse at the school. And on top of that, another good point was that both my parents had gone there, and actually some of my grandparents as well. So it was a third generation place where I could go study accounting, play lacrosse, and then have some subsidized university costs as far as tuition and room and board. So it was a really great opportunity for me. I mean, I love Detroit Mercy. To this day, I still go down and guest lecture. The same I do here at CC in the accounting classes. Do the same thing there at Detroit Mercy. So during my time there, I was in a 5-year program to get my undergrad and my MBA. So I did my undergrad in 3.5 years. I did my MBA in 1.5 years, and then in that last 5th year is when I took all the CPA exams in preparation to go to Deloitte. So it was a action-packed 5 years for me, but CC prepared me very well for it. So
that's awesome.
Definitely blessed.
What at CC made you want to choose accounting? Did you figure that out at CC or?
Actually, when I was at CC, I had 2 paths in mind. So I was looking at maybe going to dental school and becoming a dentist, or taking the business route. And so the reason I was thinking dentistry is because I'd go to Dr. Goldstein in Novi, and he'd always plug becoming a dentist and how it's such a great career.
Honestly, that's so funny you said, because Dr. Demery in downtown Northville literally had me in like a couple weeks ago to see their business and stuff, because he wanted me to become a dentist and go to UD so bad.
So it was interesting, and I had kind of decided I'm going to make a call in between my senior year at CC and then my freshman year at Detroit Mercy. So during that time, I'd actually gone and begun working, not in a strictly business-related field, but I was working at a frozen yogurt shop. And so during my time there, it was kind of cool just seeing the inside of it. It was my first experience doing any sort of bookkeeping. And when you get a look behind the curtain of any business and, what does it look like as far as the revenue, expenses, it was something that really stuck with me. So I made the call and I'm going to go into accounting and then get my CPA. And I always knew there'd be a lot of opportunities in that world anyways, because both my parents are CPAs. So I had plenty of knowledge on the availability of jobs, whether it's accounting related, marketing, sales, finance, that you could get into. So it was just a good degree to get that gives you really a maximum amount of opportunities.
Is there any like club at CC where, because for me, I was in DECA and that really sparked my interest in business and entrepreneurship in that field. So is there anything at CC like that sparked that?
Yeah, I would say being involved in athletics at CC was something that sparked my interest in just being in a competitive field. Here I played lacrosse. A lot of my family members played lacrosse too, and so that was always something that gave me a little bit of extra drive. I had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder, or a big chip on my shoulder. Yeah. And so that was one thing. And I'd say the other thing was there was a brothers club that Bill Hayes, who was the old disciplinarian or dean of students, maybe as it's called, he ran the brothers club, which was every Wednesday morning at 7 a.m. where he would just get donuts. And it was a combination of people that just wanted to either be more a part of CC and meet more people, or even some kids that were having some disciplinary issues that he wanted to be engaged with, maybe some leaders at the school. And so Bill brought me into that, and it was something where he showed me the importance of, everyone's different. We all come from different backgrounds. You have some people who are going to get 4.0s and 3.8s and 3.9s, and you're going to have some people that need extra help. And so it was more of it puts you in the role of being able to relate to people outside of your immediate circle, which may just be, athletes and students in the AP courses and honors. You're now, trying to help people work their way through CC. So I'd say those two were great for me. I was also in student government, which was a lot of fun. But yeah, those two were very meaningful to me, the sports and the Brothers Club.
Awesome. So I know we jumped in with some stories there right off the bat. So kind of then transferring from your time at university, you worked at Deloitte, I believe, correct? So,
I did.
What was special about maybe that time in your life? How did that even come about, honestly, after?
Yeah, it was interesting because Deloitte is it's the biggest professional services firm in the world. And so they generally recruit from U of M, MSU, Ohio State, some of the bigger schools in the area. And so they were not actively recruiting from Detroit Mercy. So I had actually, when I studied accounting, and talked to one of my professors. He was a big tax attorney in the city of Detroit, and he said, you should look at Deloitte. It's a great firm. There's some people from Detroit Mercy that have gone on to there. So I wrote them a letter, and I said, hey, I know you don't recruit from the school, but I would love to apply and be considered for an intern position. And this was after my junior year. So I ended up getting an internship, and that was my first foray into the world of just super hard grinding and work. And that was, for me, as an athlete and somebody who enjoys the competitive side of things, super fun, because I had done an internship at GM after my sophomore year, and GM's a great company, and there's a lot of, great General Motors employees and executives that I know, but it just didn't really fit what I was looking for. And when I started at Deloitte, the one funny story I always tell is that my first Friday there, I was working for a senior manager who actually went to the University of Detroit Mercy as well. And we stayed in the office until midnight on that Friday. And I was thinking to myself, like, this is kind of crazy, but it's also really fun because there's pressure that's coming from clients and then internally. And so it forces you to, really step up to the challenge. So after doing a couple internships, they offered me a job, which I accepted. And so I started that, after I had passed the CPA exam and my fifth year MBA courses. So I got into that, and then really for the next 4 years, looking back, it's kind of a blur because it was just so busy with travel and some pretty crazy hours. I mean, during the busier times of the year, which would be 70, 80, 90 hours a week, we would travel 3 or 4 weeks out of the month. And then
where'd you guys travel? I'm sorry to interrupt.
Yeah, no, we actually all over. It's Houston, New York, Chicago, LA, Seattle, Portland, Fort Worth. So a lot of different
variety.
places.
Nice
Yeah.
business trips.
Awesome.
Yeah, and it's because the clients we serve too, they were investment managers, so companies
Right.
that are some of the biggest private equity firms in the world, we were serving, and so they would have different back offices in different cities, and sometimes we'd meet with the owners in New York, and then we'd go to the back office in Fort Worth, and so we were all over, and very meaningful, very fun.
How did you manage because there's a lot, of burnout in that field, right? And it's you're going all the time. How did you kind of manage, keeping maybe your head on straight, right? Going through that entire process, which for some is really grueling. So
Yeah, it was difficult. There's no doubt about it. I think for me personally, because I wasn't married and I didn't have kids at the time, it was more palatable, but only because I made a commitment to staying in good physical shape. When you're working in Houston, for example, what they would always do in the Houston office is they would cater in breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So you would be in a hotel right across the street from the office. You'd walk across the street into the office, go up at 7:30 in the morning, and then because they brought all the food in and they had coffee and everything else, you wouldn't have to leave the office and you could just work all the way until 10, 11 o'clock at night. And then you would just cross the street again and go back up to your hotel. So when you do that enough and you start to either gain weight or become a little bit anxious about your health, for me, it was a matter of I made a commitment to working out or running or doing something active 4 or 5 times a week.
Okay.
And as long as I did that, I would be in a really good headspace. And it is terrible at times when you're doing an all-nighter or you stay up until 2 and you have to get up at 6 again. But ultimately, I think you can work your way through it if you stay physically and mentally fit. And the good way to do that is either by running, biking, or lifting weights,
Right.
in my experience.
And it's crazy because if you have a strong body, it also improves your thinking and all of that. So you can perform
Definitely.
really well, So,
Yeah. And even today, so now, being a business owner, being out of public accounting and into wealth management, I still carry that same 4 times per week goal. And now I've got 2 young kids. I've got a wife. My wife works, and so it's actually even tougher now to do it 4 or 5 times a week. But I make that commitment, and sometimes I go over, and sometimes I'll do 3. But I always do feel better if I stay on top of it physically.
And you know what? Because I go to the gym pretty regularly, kind of like you, like 3 to 4 times a week. And it's crazy because you don't want to go at first, but after that lift or after that run, you feel so good, and it just like fills you with such positive energy that you can carry out throughout your day. So
Yeah.
it is really important.
80% of the work is just getting there.
exactly.
So,
Right?
Yeah.
Do you
That is
feel
awesome.
do you like working out outside, or do you like working out in the gym? I know that there are a lot of people that like to get out, like the fresh air, and they're running, but there's equally probably the same number that would rather just go to Lifetime or whatever and cycle inside or run inside. Or
I do prefer to be outside if I can. So if I had it my way, I would run in the winter. So I live with my wife in Plymouth, and they're good about clearing the streets, but there's also black ice. So I do more of a Peloton workout in the winter. But as soon as it's warm enough to be outside, I like to go running. I do like to play golf as well. So when you're golfing and you're walking around the course, I've tracked the total mileage. It's about 7.5 to 8 miles for a round, and you're burning 1,000 calories. So I like to walk when I play, just because then you get a full workout. I don't have to then do another run for that week, and then it just makes me feel better about myself. So
Do you recommend like young people like us, especially if you're trying to get into business, learn how to golf? Because golfing on the green could secure a deal, and entrepreneurs and other business leaders, their time is valuable, right? So you need to do something proactive where you can forge a friendship or also even a deal sometimes.
that's 100% true. I mean, I would say being able to golf well, it's not only important because your clients or your peers at the company you might work at will like to play, but it's also just fun to work at something where after, for example, in my case, when I graduated from the University of Detroit Mercy, I no longer had lacrosse to play. I mean, there's no men's league lacrosse where you're going to meet with other business leaders and owners. And so golf was just the next step where I could take that energy that I had for sports and then just apply it. And, it doesn't matter how athletic you are or what your athletic history is when you go out on the golf course. You're probably worse than somebody who you would have been way better at other sports than. Right. But it's a continual improvement thing where, in your mind, you can be proud of yourself. Like I, for example, started at a 22 handicap when I started playing seriously about 6 years ago, and I've worked my way down to about a 10, which is respectable. I mean, I can shoot between 80 and 85. I'm not going to be a scratch player, but when you are inviting out a client or maybe somebody that you're working for to play golf, being able to finish a round in 4 hours, which is easy to do if you're a 10 handicap, is important because no one's going to make fun of you if you're bad. But if you're bad and that makes everybody slow down, that's where it gets a little bit awkward. So it's
time
pace
is
of
really
play.
important, exactly. And like people's, especially something I found is a lot of really successful people like to kind of cut back their commitments, right? So if they could get a meeting done in 10, 15 minutes instead of a meeting that would take normally an hour, right? Maybe by doing like virtual or whatever, they're going to do it, or if an email is suffice, they're going to do it. And so is that something that in your kind of current business that you see a lot is people are just, they don't really want to go out to the country club to have dinner or lunch or whatever. They just want to get it done in an afternoon or in an email.
Yeah, I would say there's always people that have different likes in that way. So there's those that want, if they're an executive at a company, they might not have any time at all. So the meetings with them, when we're working through their financial plan or we're looking at their investments and putting something together, they want to get that done in half an hour. There's other people that might be retired where they have more time. And what I found is really interesting too is having, a family focus and, talking about your kids is something that all clients love. And so I've got certain clients where before we do any business talk or talk about anything, they say, show me the new pictures of your kids. And so for me, I do the same thing because I love to see my clients' kids, whether they're 3 years old or 15 or 30 years old, and hear about what they're doing if they're in med school or they're just in high school. So yeah, it's a mix across the board, but I think generally now with the advent of Zoom and all these other ways that people can work a client relationship, there's definitely a large group of people that just say, hey, let's stick to business because it's the middle of the day. I've got another meeting that I got to run to in 25 or 30 minutes. But yeah, it's different across the board. The retirees will give you a little bit more of their time. Yeah.
So you're talking about like how you stayed in a routine, like with working out. So like how did that all get like changed? Like suddenly like COVID hits, like we're all in lockdown, so like start working at home. So like how did that like routine, like your 2 kids and all of that change? Yeah, it's changed a lot. I actually was going to get engaged at a big party on March 21st of 2020, which was the week of the shutdown. So that whole plan got scrapped. And then my wife and I ended up getting engaged anyways, but just ourselves. And then I because we were an essential business, I would still go into the office just because with the markets still open, people needed the liquidity of their assets and frankly to buy in, or if they're in retirement, they still need their funds coming out on a monthly basis. So that did change a lot. I mean, we ended up getting married in August of 2020, and we had little Charlie, who's my son, in June of 2021. So that put a lot of stress, just as far as going from 0 to 1 kid, your entire schedule changes because, little Charlie wasn't sleeping. We were actually just starting our company at the time in May of 2021, so 1 month before he was born. We had left Raymond James to start up our own registered advisory firm.
That's quite the year.
Yeah. And then my wife had finished up her residency, so it was very difficult. I think it's true for, I know a lot of you in here are seniors. You're going to college next year. All of a sudden, your parents aren't going to be around you all the time. You're going to have way more free time than you have right now, less supervision. but your responsibilities are going to pick up because now you're in a place where, yeah, it's not just high school anymore where you're looking to get into a good college and, become a stronger man of faith and all that. You're also looking to secure a career, right? And so you're going to be talking to people who can help you get an internship or a job in the summer. And so it's going to be, you guys will experience that in a very short period of time here. And I think it's just important to make a commitment and stick to it. So whether you have 1 kid, 2 kid, no kids, I wanted to do 4 or 5 workouts. And then if it's important to you, you'll prioritize it and make it happen.
And for the viewers who don't exactly know what your company does, can you just explain like what your company really does?
Yeah. So we're a registered investment advisor. So people refer to us as financial advisors, financial planners, investment managers. And so through our role, our firm, we manage right now around $1.2 billion in client assets. We're based in Novi. We've got 4 Catholic Central graduates on our team, and we help high net worth and ultra high net worth families protect and preserve the generational wealth that they've created. So that can be done in any number of ways. I mean, it hits on a bunch of different focus areas, but everything from helping them reduce their taxes in different ways to help structure their estate plan so that their assets are protected, helping them do financial planning. So if they're, a grandparent is going to be helping a grandkid fund their education in college, how are we doing that in advance and being proactive so that we can help reduce the size of a taxable estate of a wealthy family and also help the education be funded, for their grandkid in the future. So it spans almost everything related to money. And then we, if it comes to an expense, income, assets, or liabilities, we're the first call that our clients make if they have questions on anything financial.
Do you keep a tax attorney on staff at your office? Because I found that that's becoming commonplace now for a lot of wealth management firms to kind of do everything in one for the families that they represent.
Yeah, so actually one of my partners, Brian, who's a Catholic Central graduate as well, he worked at Kerr, Russell, and Weber, which was a law firm. Is a law firm downtown. He's an attorney by background, and he got his master's in taxation from Georgetown. So he is a financial advisor with a background of doing that tax work. So we have him as one of our partners, and then we've also got 4 of us have a background as a CPA. So it's a huge differentiator to your point, because when somebody comes to us and they've got questions about, what's the biggest expense that anyone has, generally speaking? I mean, it's taxes for wealthy individuals. If you're in the top bracket in Michigan, you're paying over 40% of your gross income just in tax. And in certain states, I was working with one of my clients yesterday in New York. It's over 50% for that.
Wow.
So anything that we can do to help them reduce that, grow their investment assets, and then do planning for their family, having those people who are great resources makes a world of difference versus maybe a financial advisor who studied philosophy or English in college that doesn't really understand the tax code. That's not gonna do it for a family that's looking to preserve and protect generational wealth.
Right.
That's been a pivot that I've seen, honestly. Like Robert, who's partner at Blue Chip, like he was prior to that, he was an attorney as well, right? So that's a pivot that I think is probably going to become more and more popular, and definitely something that would be helpful for the clients. So
how did you find your business partner?
So it's actually there's 2 families, and our company is called Nemes Rush Family Wealth Management. So the Nemeses are myself, Charlie, who's my father, Brian, who's my cousin, and then we've got Tim Rush. So those are the 4 partners. And then we've also got a few other Nemeses as well that are financial advisors and also help as controllers. So when I was leaving Deloitte, I looked at a couple of different opportunities, and ultimately my biggest goal was I still wanted to have that same competitive industry to be a part of, but I wanted to insert myself directly with the end client face to face. And when you're at Deloitte serving private equity firms or hedge funds, yes, you're working, for a client, but the end user of a private equity firm and a hedge fund is still a client of theirs, right? So you're helping them do things for, their group of investors. And so for me, I wanted to get into something that was just directly with a client. So I had grown up with my dad being in the business. He had worked at Merrill Lynch for a long time, and then Raymond James. So it was him and Tim at the time working together at Raymond James. And so I met with him and I said, I've been at Deloitte for 4 years. I've loved my time. I've built some great skills, and I would love to join you. I mean, he's always been my hero. He's a great guy. And so now I get to work with him every day. And, 3 years after I had joined him and our team had grown larger, that's when it made sense for us to leave Raymond James, start our own company, and now it's grown into soon to be 13 people. At the time it was 5 or 6.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I know like a lot of us in high school all have dreams of starting our own company, being self-employed, running our own schedule. So can you tell us a little bit about the process from working in a big firm to like starting your own company, like the risks it took, like the sacrifices?
Yeah, a lot of risk and a lot of sacrifices, I would say. I mean, when you're at, and I'll do a Raymond James as an employee versus Nemes Rush as a business owner comparison here, is that when you're an employee and you're working for a firm like Raymond James or Merrill Lynch or UBS, they've got tens of thousands of people who are in the back office, who are managing all the billing, and they've got a chief financial officer, and they've got chief operations officers and regional management and local management and all these people that allow the advisors to spend 100% of their time just with clients and prospective clients. So that's one thing where if you're an advisor that works at a firm like that, you may have more time for, your clients as a percentage, right? From an hour standpoint, I still spend just as much time with my clients as I did before. But now on top of that, I've got my weekend time, which is doing all the administrative work that comes with that as well. So everything from, you name it, business-wise, we've gone through it and gone from zero to where we are today, like starting a 401k plan for the employees, picking out different healthcare plans that have to exist, setting up a billing structure, having a chief compliance officer, hiring a controller to do all the accounting. We have outside CPAs and attorneys that we have to contract for different things. And so it's something where the rewards are much greater, in my opinion, where you can set your own schedule and your schedule ends up being busier, but it's in a way that you want it to be. And you don't have, maybe somebody at the bank in New York putting down an order to all the financial advisors in Michigan saying, hey, you're going to do this now. For us, we own and operate the firm. So we can say, we know what's right for our clients. So that's what we're going to do. We don't have somebody else dictating how we have to do things. So to me, that's more valuable than anything. It's just having the independence. And our clients know that. And that's why I think we've had such explosive growth, is because they recognize that. And so they refer their friends, their family, their peers to us, and that helps us grow.
And what sets you apart? Because being in the services industry, right? Working with clients on a day-to-day basis and kind of a client-facing role. What sets your firm apart from, any other person that hangs their shingle up, right? That we could go to or contract.
Yeah, I would say our professional backgrounds are the first one. So having 4 formerly practicing CPAs on staff, and then the tax and M&A attorney. That is a huge differentiator where, that does exist elsewhere, certainly, in different numbers maybe, and maybe they have 1 or 2 instead of 5 professionals with those backgrounds. But I think that's the main thing. When people come to us, they understand that we have clients that are in their shoes. We've seen cases like theirs before, so we have a library of knowledge that we can apply to their situation. And that's not to say if somebody is not a CPA or if they haven't had a JD or a master's in taxation that they can't do what we do. It's just that they see from their friends, from the people that refer them to us, and that's how we grow, is people go to their friends and say, these guys are doing a great job. You should go talk to them. Here's their number. On top of that, I think it's just a matter of we work super hard. So in the industry, when people talk about financial advisors, sometimes people attribute the old, banker's schedule, where they're out of the office by 3, going to the golf course and playing. For us, I took a call last night at 8:45 for a client that was asking me about something, and it could have been one where I looked at my phone and just texted back and said, yeah, I can't take
With
this
my
right now with my family. But we take the time, and I think the responsiveness is the other one, because it's not something where, yeah, I'll get to you at 9:30 tomorrow when the market opens. But it's more of, it's the proactive nature and the professional backgrounds, I think, sets us apart.
And you have to consistently be on, as you said, right? To answer that phone call and especially in an industry like you're in, right? Because money is, we were talking in our accounting class actually recently, is the biggest stressor that people really face in their life, right? So having somebody to walk through with them is really important, especially someone knowledgeable as yourself. So,
hiring good people, right? You have 13, you said, staff members currently. How do you go about finding good people to hire?
Yeah, it's very tough. We've had, over the past few years, we've brought on a few people into different roles. So we've hired a controller. We knew her because she's a cousin of mine, so she has a great background. We trust her. So that was an easy one. But hiring even for a receptionist position, we hired a 23-year-old to come in who's finishing up at Northwood. He was one that saw a job posting that we put on Indeed. So that was just a normal job posting. We'll do them on LinkedIn. For somebody in the advisor roles, it's much different, and it is very difficult to find somebody. If you look at the statistics of financial advisors, of the amount of people that start at a place like Merrill Lynch versus those that are there 10 years later, I mean, it's maybe 10% of them make it. So you're not going to always have success there. But for us, we've actually had great success because we hire people that we know. So all the financial advisors are family members in one way or another, whether they're cousins or sons or brothers. So it makes sense for us to hire people that we trust in that way. And for the other positions, we just try to get a lot in that we can test. And if somebody is sitting across the table from you, you can generally get a good sense of who they are and what they're doing. And we believe in all in-person work. So there's this whole remote work movement, which I think is actually coming back down to earth a little bit. But we have everybody on our team in the office. That's super important to us because when we're dealing with clients, to your point, money is the biggest stressor. Doesn't matter what career you have, where you're from, what your foundation is, it is the biggest stressor. So it's something where we need to give comfort to our clients, and so people show up in person, and that's very important to us. So people that want the remote work, that's not going to happen for us.
Do you find it easier to have a place to go when you wake up in the morning and say, I'm not just going to, go downstairs, log onto my computer, right? Do you find it easier to know you can go in and sit down in your office and get your work done that way?
Yeah. I mean, I would say 100%, me personally. I mean, I'll go in on really every Saturday, sometimes Sunday to work, even though I could open up my laptop and do that from home. I mean, I've got 2 kids that are, running and screaming around. I try to line it up with their naps, so they're down anyways, but then I couldn't call people, and so it's very important to me to have the separation, because you'll hear from people that work remotely is, yeah, I guess I never got dressed today, I never took a shower, I didn't leave to go get food, and so it turns into this cycle of there's no lines of demarcation in your life, and it just kind of blends together. When I was at Deloitte, we did work from home Fridays, and I hated it. So I would still go in sometimes just because, you don't want to be in that position where you're just inside all day and wow, it's already the night. I didn't see the sun at all or do anything active.
Yeah, you're in a meeting, you have the suit on,
Suit
top,
on,
and like
shorts on the bottom.
Yeah, exactly.
And that goes back to even the idea of working out and keeping yourself physically fit is you have to keep yourself mentally fit too. And especially, obviously I'm sure you see this in kind of a public facing type career space, right? Where you want to keep yourself mentally fit all the time. And going into the office, having somewhere to go, even coming to school for us, I think is so important to make that balance happen. So.
Yeah, I mean, mental health has become a bigger and bigger discussion over the last decade, I would say. I mean, it used to not be a thing that anybody talked about. Now it's one where I think it's more acceptable. So for people, that they want to have a schedule and they want to do something that's active every day and they want to go and work and they want to spend time with their kids. I mean, I look at it for our employees and the people that, you know, even my clients, and I think it's increasingly important to everybody just to have a schedule and something where you can focus on doing the right things for your day, physically, professionally, family-wise. And so that's why you've seen the rise of, you know, maternity and paternity leave. When I was at Deloitte, they introduced the 16-week maternity leave. And so that was, you know, one of the first companies that did that. Now it's kind of a standard that you get between, you know, 12 and 16. But that's really important too, because I see it when I have kids now, is that I don't feel good if I left my house at 5 and I came back at 10 o'clock at night and I don't see my kids at all. There's a, you know, a hole in my heart for that day where I'm like, I want to see the kids. So I do think it's very important, and that's something people should focus on, is just having a schedule that aligns with whatever their goals are. And if, you know, that can be as ambitious or not as you want, but it should be something where it aligns with your personality. Because once you get off that path, I think that's where people start to have problems.
And you can, you know, finding, I think, that balance to, you know, when you can turn off that part of your life, right? Which I know in your business is a little bit more challenging than others, right? Because, you know, as you said, you get the 8 p.m. phone calls. But have you been able to find, and obviously you're a business owner too, but like, have you been able to find that balance in some respects of being able to turn it off and say, I'm at home now, you know, like this is, you know.
Yeah. I think when I start the day, because my kids wake up very early. I mean, they'll wake up at 5:45 or 6 o'clock. So I'll get to see them. And I don't have my phone out. I'll just be spending time with them. No one's really sending emails or calling that early in the morning. So
Right.
so that's a win for me, is spending time with them, making a coffee, even if it's half an hour or whatnot. That's really good. And then when I get home and I'm eating, I try to, you know, take that time off as well and spend time with the kids. I don't like to log back on until after they've already gone to bed and I've had a chance to talk to my wife a little bit. So yeah, there are periods where, you know, your big clients will call you at certain times and you got to pick up the phone and be responsive. But generally, people are also respectful of your time unless it's an emergency. And so that's one thing I like to do with clients as well, is I let them know I'm always going to be responsive. But yeah, I mean, not many of them are going to call at late at night. So that's been good. Everyone's got to find their own balance though, because, you know, when people talk about work-life balance, that doesn't mean the same thing for everybody. For some people that might mean I'm going to put in, you know, 35 to 40 hours a week. And then as soon as I log off, don't call me, don't talk to me, don't do this. And if that's what you choose, that's fine. And that will set you on a path that you'll have to live by. And if you choose something else, then you may have more opportunities or you know, better options later in your career.
And honestly, like, this has made it so hard. Like, cell phones, you know, today have made it so hard. Like, I was talking to my dad, and, you know, when he started working, it was, you know, you went to a payphone, he's in sales, right? You went to a payphone, you called in the order, right, back to the office, and they wrote it down. Like, now, you know, in BlackBerries and all that stuff, when that all came out, it's completely changed the world, because, you know, you can be at home and still get an email. You can be at home and still, you know, have to log in to do work, right? So,
Yeah.
Well, we really appreciate having you on today. You know,
Yeah.
it was definitely a great experience for us, eye-opening to see a business owner in their field and our first alumni guest.
Yeah,
So
thanks for having me.
we
It was a
really
lot of fun.
appreciate it. So
Yeah,
yeah, well,
Yeah, thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Nemes.
absolutely.
Thank you,
Thanks for having me.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Yeah, awesome.